At the beginning of the movie, the story is set in 1977. We see a jolly chimp toy and two boys, Yusuf and Din, playing with it. Suddenly, Yusuf's sister Aika comes in, takes the jolly chimp, and runs away. However, their father Gazali takes the toy from her, asks her to go upstairs and sleep, and gives the toy back to Yusuf. Noor, Gazali's first wife, then politely asks the house help to take Aika and Yusuf to their room and get them ready for bed. At the same time, Mawa, Gazali's second wife, asks the house help to give Din the milk she has prepared. Din is the house help's son, while Yusuf and Aika are Noor's children. Yusuf and Din share a close bond. Din tells Yusuf that he is lucky to have a father who brought him such a nice toy. Just then, the house help asks Din to go to sleep. Hearing this, Din becomes upset because he still wants to play. Yusuf kindly hands the toy to Din and tells him he can keep it for the night, which makes Din very happy.
Like, comment, subscribe to Recapss Horror.
Later that night, Noor goes to her children's room to wish them good night. She kisses both of them and, before leaving, asks Yusuf to take care of his sister. She then switches off the light and closes the door. As the clock strikes 12, Yusuf is startled to see Din standing in front of him, returning the toy. Strange visuals appear, and suddenly adult Yusuf jolts awake. The timeline shifts to the year 2007. Yusuf receives a call from his wife Marissa, who is in Egypt. They have a son named Mikhail. After 30 years, Yusuf is returning to his childhood home. Marissa asks him if he doesn't want her to be with him, as this could be the first and last opportunity for her to see his father. Yusuf angrily tells her that he doesn't want her or Mikhail to be involved with his family. He says his father is on his deathbed and that he has come back only for the burial. Marissa asks him not to speak this way and reminds him that no matter what his father did, he is still his father. Yusuf then disconnects the call. He asks his driver, Namran, whether everything at home is still the same. Namran replies that nothing in this world remains the same forever. The young grow old, the living die, and those who leave, like Yusuf, eventually return. Yusuf responds by saying that the real difference lies in how a person chooses to live their life, whether they choose to do good or bad in this world. They eventually reach the house. As Yusuf enters, he finds Aika playing alone. She is now an adult, but mentally unstable. Seeing her in this condition, Yusuf feels deeply sad. He tells her that he is her brother. Aika asks what has brought him back and tells him to leave. Yusuf says he has returned for her, but Aika responds that their mother doesn't want him there. When Yusuf asks if their mother is still in touch with her, Aika says that their mother is no longer there. She ran away, just like Yusuf did, leaving her behind. She adds that only people she despises remain in this house, and then runs away. Moments later, Mawar arrives and tells Yusuf that Aika is unwell, and that her condition worsened after Noor ran away. Yusuf is shocked to see how young Mawar still looks. Mawar tells him that it is good he has come home, as Gazali wishes to see his favorite son before he passes away. Yusuf then enters his old room, which brings back memories of his mother. He then discovers a wooden trunk containing the same jolly chimp toy. As he picks it up, he recalls Din returning the toy to him. Just then, Aika appears and asks what he is doing there. She tells him that it is no longer his room and asks him to sleep downstairs. Mawar then arrives and informs Yusuf that his father is awake and that he may see him now. Yusuf goes to meet Gazali, who is bedridden. Sitting beside him, Yusuf says, "It's me, Yusuf." He tells him that he has stayed away from him and this family for a long time, and that he only wants to know why he was sent away. He says he has often asked himself what he did wrong, why his mother ran away, and why no one in the house ever tried to contact him. He insists that he needs answers. At that moment, Gazali slowly opens his eyes and, upon looking at Yusuf, becomes terrified because he sees a ghostly vision of Din standing beside him. Suddenly, Gazali starts vibrating violently in fear. Yusuf tries to calm him and begins praying, and eventually, Gazali settles down. Later, Yusuf remembers how he and Din used to play hide and seek in the house. Just then, the door of a storeroom opens on its own. Yusuf switches on the light, and as he starts climbing the stairs, the light begins to flicker. He looks around cautiously, and suddenly sees Din standing there, holding the jolly chimp toy. Din suddenly walks toward him to return the toy. Terrified, Yusuf quickly runs out of the storeroom. Aika sees him and asks what he was doing in there, playing hide and seek. She then walks away. Later that night at the dinner table, Mawar asks Yusuf how the food is, and whether it is better than Noor's cooking. Yusuf replies that no one can replace his mother. Mawar responds by saying that Noor left her children. At that moment, Aika comments that their mother is still here and that she never left them. She says she met her just yesterday under the tree. Hearing this, Yusuf is shocked. Before he can react, Mawar stands up and begins feeding Yusuf with her own hand, then eats from the same spoon herself. Disturbed, Aika suddenly yells that she doesn't want to eat and that she wants her mother before leaving the table. Mawar then asks the house help to give Aika her medicine, milk mixed with honey, which she had prepared earlier. Yusuf asks what medicine Aika is taking. Mawar replies that they are tranquilizers meant to control her outbursts. She adds that the doctor advised hospitalizing Aika, but she refused because she does not trust modern medicine. Later that night, while Yusuf is sleeping, he experiences terrifying visions in his dreams, which suddenly jolt him awake. He then notices the wooden trunk inside his room. When he opens it, he finds the jolly chimp toy inside, clapping its cymbals. Behind Yusuf, Din's spirit appears. Suddenly, the window behind him slams shut with a loud bang. Yusuf immediately turns around to check, but finds nothing and closes the window. As he places the toy aside, it begins clapping its cymbals again, and once more, Din's spirit appears behind him. Yusuf starts reciting a prayer when a demonic hand rises behind him. However, the toy suddenly stops, and the demonic presence vanishes as well. The next morning, Yusuf wakes up and is shocked to see Marissa sitting with Mawar outside. She has arrived with their son, Mikhail. Later, inside their room, Yusuf angrily confronts Marissa for coming there and bringing Mikhail with her. Marissa explains that she wanted to surprise him. Yusuf tells her that he does not want her or Mikhail anywhere near his family. Marissa responds that she wants to meet his father and reminds him that she is his wife and should understand what her husband is going through. That is what marriage means. During their conversation, it is revealed that Marissa had an affair with another man after their marriage. She explains to Yusuf that her intention was only to meet his family, especially his father, as she does not have a family of her own. Yusuf apologizes and tells her that once things are settled there, they will return home. Unnoticed, Mawar listens to their conversation from a distance and appears pleased. Later, Yusuf takes Marissa to meet Gazali. Marissa greets him and introduces Mikhail. The moment Gazali looks at the child, he becomes terrified, points a trembling finger at him, and whispers the word snake into Yusuf's ear. Gazali begins, gasping for breath, and Yusuf immediately starts praying. At the same time, Mawar is seen quietly chanting a spell. Veins begin to bulge on Gazali's face, and shortly after, he dies. We then see Gazali's funeral prayers taking place. Later, Namran informs Yusuf that he has spoken to the funeral committee. Since the sun is setting, the burial will have to be done the next morning. Yusuf agrees and quietly looks at his father's dead body. Later, in their bedroom, Marissa is lying on the bed with her back turned toward Yusuf. Yusuf begins talking to her and apologizes for his behavior earlier. He says they will have to book their return flight soon. Just as he reaches out toward her, Marissa calls out to him from behind and asks who he is talking to. Yusuf turns and is shocked to see that no one is on the bed. He asks her where she was, and Marissa replies that she had gone downstairs to check on Mikhail and then had coffee with Mawar. Marissa then asks how Mawar still looks so young and whether she looked the same 30 years ago when Yusuf left the house. Yusuf says he doesn't remember and adds that his family practices something unusual. He tells her he will explain it later, and they go to sleep. Later that night, Yusuf again has terrifying visions in his dreams and wakes up in fear. He realizes that the electricity is out and takes a torch from the drawer to check the fuse box. As he steps outside, he hears a woman humming. When he looks, he sees Mawar in her room, humming while staring at herself in the mirror. Yusuf then moves into the living area near his father's body. Suddenly, someone runs past him. Terrified, Yusuf looks around, only for someone to run past him again from behind. When he looks back, he realizes that his father's dead body is missing. Panic-stricken, he hears someone whisper his name, followed by the sound of someone eating. Yusuf discovers Gazali sitting in a corner, still wrapped in his burial shroud, hauntingly eating something. Gazali turns toward him with a blood-smeared mouth, terrifying Yusuf. Suddenly, Din's spirit screams Yusuf's name, and Ghazali's corpse asks him why he came back home. At that moment, the house help switches on the lights and asks what is wrong. Yusuf finds his father's body back in its original place and takes a deep breath, realizing it was another horrifying vision. Later, the house help tells Yusuf that the house is very old and that the electricity sometimes goes out. Just then, someone knocks on the door. When the help opens it, Namran is standing there with Aika. Yusuf asks how Ik managed to go outside. Aika replies that she was looking for her mother. Namran asks the help to take Aika to her room, clean her up, and give her milk with honey. When Yusuf asks what happened, Namran says he found Aika sleepwalking under a tree and that locked doors never stop her from getting out. Yusuf asks why his father never had her treated. Namran replies that Mawar kept giving her milk with honey, claiming that she could cure her. Yusuf asks what Aika was doing under the tree. He says Aika claimed she was looking for her mother, but Namran dismisses it as sleepwalking, saying she had no idea where she was going. He then suggests that they should all get some rest since Ghazali's burial is scheduled for the next morning. The next morning, Ghazali's body is taken for burial. The grave diggers are horrified and inform the imam that blood keeps seeping out of the ground. The grave pit is filled with blood. Eager to leave as soon as possible, Yusuf decides to proceed with the burial. He steps into the grave himself, places the body inside, and completes the burial. Meanwhile, back at the house, Mawar asks Marissa if she has any relatives there. Marissa tells her that her parents passed away when she was 19 in an accident. She was studying in the UK at the time and couldn't return home in time. She met Yusuf around that period. Marissa says that her parents sacrificed so much for her, but she could never repay them. That is why, when Yusuf told her he was returning home to see his sick and dying father, her heart broke, as it reminded her of her own parents. Mawar tells Marissa that her life is not very different from hers. She explains that once, her house caught fire, and the blaze was so severe that her parents died in it. She herself collapsed on the road outside her house, but fate had something else planned for her. Gazali appeared out of nowhere, rescued her, and later made her his wife. Mawar says that Gazali was a good man, wealthy and already married at the time. Noor was pregnant with Ik then, and she was hesitant about Mawar at first. Mawar adds that perhaps the marriage brought blessings into their lives as Ghazali's wealth continued to grow. She assured Noor that she never meant to steal her husband and only wanted to share in their happiness. She then tells Marissa that women must stay strong and asks her to call her mother. Hearing this, Marissa feels comforted and happy. Later, Yusuf returns home with Mikhail. He leaves Mikhail sitting in the garden and goes to check the basement. Nervously, he reaches for the basement door and realizes that it is locked. At that moment, he experiences haunting visions again. Just then, Marissa arrives and the scene cuts. We then see Yusuf packing his belongings and asking Marissa to pack as well, so they can leave the house. Marissa asks why he wants to leave so suddenly. Yusuf pleads with her to listen, but suddenly sees Mawar in Marissa's place, followed by disturbing visions. Terrified, he starts breathing heavily and tells Marissa that the house is haunted, and that since she brought Mikhail there, the spirit has become more violent. Meanwhile, in the garden, Mikhail sees Ghazali's spirit, but Aika suddenly appears in front of him, causing the spirit to vanish. She asks Mikhail to play with her, and they begin playing football. Aika kicks the ball hard, and Mikhail runs to retrieve it. At the same time, Yusuf asks Marissa to get Mikhail and starts leaving. Marissa tries to stop him, but he doesn't listen and walks away. Elsewhere, the football rolls farther away on its own, and Mikhail follows it. Marissa taunts Yusuf, asking why he is running away again. Yusuf angrily replies that he did not run away before. He was sent away. Marissa tells him not to control her. In anger, Yusuf brings up Marissa's affair again, and Marissa yells back at him. Just as Mikhail bends down to pick up the ball, demonic hands grab him. Hearing his scream, his parents rush to him. Yusuf pushes Aika aside, finds Mikhail unconscious, lifts him in his arms, and carries him inside, while Namran stands staring at the spot where Mikhail collapsed. Inside the house, Yusuf tries to revive Mikhail. He asks Marissa to call an ambulance, but just then Mawar arrives. Marissa addresses her as mother, which shocks Yusuf. Mawar insists that Mikhail only needs rest and should not be taken to the hospital. She claims that she will heal him. Yusuf argues that Mikhail needs a doctor, not a shaman, but Marissa scolds him. Mawar tells them to wait through the night and says that if Mikhail's fever does not subside, they can take him to the hospital the next day. She then treats Mikhail in her own way, claiming she has healed many people before. Soon, Mikhail begins to feel better. Mawar tells Marissa that she can call her anytime if she needs her, and then leaves. After she is gone, Yusuf asks Marissa not to call Mawar mother, but Marissa refuses to argue about it. Yusuf then goes to Namran's room and tells him that he believes Mikhail fell ill because of the house, which he thinks is haunted. Namran replies that the house and the land are inhabited by humans, and that it is human actions, what people living on this land have done, that invited the spirits to reside there. Yusuf then asks Namran for the basement keys. Namran says that only Mawar has them, and asks why he wants to go there. Yusuf replies that he only wants to take a look. Namran tells him there's nothing there anymore, as it is now just a storage space. Yusuf asks Namran if it is true that after he was sent away, the family continued practicing polytheism. Namran replies that it is an old story. Yusuf tells him that only Namran can clear his doubts, as he spent his last days in the house with him. A flashback follows. Young Yusuf is sitting in a car when Namran takes the driver's seat and tells him that they are going to the airport. He explains that Yusuf will meet one of his father's friends there, who will take him to London. Yusuf asks where his mother is, and Namran tells him that she will meet him at the airport. They then drive away. Back in the present, Namran tells Yusuf that his father had ordered him to send Yusuf away. Yusuf reminds Namran that he was told his mother would come to the airport and asks why she never showed up. Namran replies that she ran away. According to Gazali, she had left the house that very morning before Yusuf was taken to the airport, and no one knows where she went. Yusuf asks why she ran away and whether she was upset with Mawar. Namran avoids answering, and instead tells Yusuf that special prayers for his father will be held at the mosque that night, and insists that Yusuf come with him. Yusuf hesitates, saying that his son is ill, but Namran insists and leaves. Later, Aika asks Marissa if Mikhail is feeling better and apologizes, saying she has no idea what happened to him. As she turns to leave, Yusuf stops her and apologizes for pushing her earlier. Aika tells him that he is the only person she has left in the world. Their mother is no longer around, and Yusuf had left her behind to live alone in the house, without love. She says that if he has returned only to add more grief to her heart, then he should leave. Later that night, Mikhail is sleeping when he suddenly dreams of his grandfather calling him closer. He jolts awake as the jolly chimp toy starts clapping its cymbals. A wardrobe door slowly creaks open, and a ghostly presence begins to emerge. The toy claps faster, before suddenly stopping. Din's ghost then suddenly appears, terrifying Mikhail, who jolts awake again. Marissa asks him what is wrong as he stares at the wardrobe. She reassures him that there is no one there and gently puts him back to sleep, and hear music playing. We then see Mawar sitting in front of the mirror, doing her makeup as music plays in her room, hearing strange sounds, like many people chanting spells. Marissa steps out of her room to check what's going on. At the same time, Yusuf is at the mosque, offering prayers for his deceased father. Marissa walks toward the dining table and is shocked to see 4 people sitting silently, eating. The table is beautifully laid out with different dishes, but when Marissa looks closely, she realizes that worms are crawling through the food, and the people are actually eating human flesh. Feeling nauseous, Marissa almost vomits. Just then, Mawar arrives and invites her to join them for dinner. She casually explains that her relatives have dropped by for a small feast and are celebrating Gazali's death. As Marissa tries to run away, Mawar grabs her and throws her to the floor. Terrified, Marissa screams for help. The scene then cuts to the mosque, where Namran is waiting anxiously in the car for Yusuf. Yusuf gets into the car and asks Namran to drive. Meanwhile, we see Aika in a deep sleep after drinking milk mixed with honey. It appears that something was added to the milk to make her fall into a heavy sleep. We then see Mikhail waking up after hearing chanting sounds and moving toward their source. At the same time, Namran tells Yusuf that he has no idea what to do now that Gazali is dead. Yusuf suggests that he find another job, telling him that he is finally free. Namran bitterly responds that freedom does not come cheap. He was never truly free. He then explains how Mawar entered his father's life, making him richer and more powerful, while slowly taking control over everyone. Yusuf's mother had her doubts, but Mawar's black magic was far too strong. Namran recalls the night Din was sacrificed, one boy's life offered during every blood moon ritual. Yusuf had secretly witnessed this ritual, but Namran caught him and was forced to take him to Mawar. Namran obeyed her because he had become her slave. If he disobeyed, she would have killed him. Since Yusuf had seen everything, Mawar ordered that he must die and tried to convince Noor to accept this. Noor fiercely objected, saying that Mawar had entered her home, taken her husband, used her, and now wanted to kill her son as well. Enraged, Mawar stabbed Noor, causing her to collapse. Namran tells Yusuf that his mother was trying to protect him, but his father was completely under Mawar's control. Gazali decided to keep Noor's murder a secret and destroyed all the evidence. Namran reveals that Noor's life was sacrificed in exchange for Yusuf's. That is why Yusuf is still alive. Finally, Namran confesses that he was the one who buried Noor that night, in the front yard of the house, the very place where Aika now spends most of her time. Namran explains that the day after Yusuf's mother's death, Yusuf was sent away, so he would be far removed from all of this. Yusuf steps out of the car, and Namran apologizes, saying he can no longer live with this secret. He admits that Yusuf may not remember, but there were other boys sacrificed before Din, and many more were killed even after Yusuf was sent away. Enraged, Yusuf punches Namran, calling him a murderer, and no different from the people inside that house. Namran, broken and desperate, urges Yusuf to go and save Mikhail. Meanwhile, Mikhail hears the sound of chanting and follows it to the basement, where the door opens on its own. At the same time, Yusuf reaches the house and rushes inside, desperately searching for his wife and son. He sees the feast laid out on the dining table, then hears a woman crying for help. He discovers the house help tied up and asks her what happened. She tells him that Mawar has taken his family away. Yusuf races toward the basement, finds the door locked, and manages to break it open before stepping inside. Elsewhere, Namran is haunted by Din's spirit. Fleeing in terror, he runs into the graveyard, where Din appears before him again. As Namran tries to escape, hands burst out from the ground and drag him into an open grave. Looking up, he sees the spirits of multiple children staring down at him. More hands grip him, pulling his hands. Then Noor's ghost rises from the ground in front of him and moves toward him. Namran begs her for forgiveness, confessing that he regrets what he did to her. It is then revealed that while burying Noor, he realized she was still alive, but he buried her anyway. Noor's ghost stares at him and lets out a piercing scream. The scene cuts to Yusuf finally entering the room where the ritual is being performed. Suddenly, one of the cult members attacks him, and the screen fades to black. After some time, Yusuf regains consciousness and sees Mikhail lying on a table. Mawar tells Yusuf that Gazali has left all his assets and the house to her. but his greatest asset is in this very room. Yusuf asks what she means. Mawar explains that it is their guardian, the entity that grants them wealth and has kept her alive all these years. Suddenly, a growl is heard from behind a locked door. She reveals that she was the one who made Gazali call Yusuf back home. Furious, Yusuf accuses her of being associated with the devil. Mawar calmly replies that she may be a polytheist in his eyes, but she has found pleasure and power. She then tears a page from her spellbook, crumples it, and eats it. Just then, she screams as her eyes turn demonic. Picking up a dagger, she moves forward to kill Mikhail. Yusuf tries to stop her, but the cult members restrain him. Desperate, Yusuf begs her to spare Mikhail and kill him instead, reminding her that she cannot kill Gazali's descendant. Mikhail is his grandson. Suddenly, Mawar leaps high into the air and lands in front of Yusuf, startling both him and Marissa. She orders Marissa to tell Yusuf the truth. Through tears, Marissa reveals that Mikhail is not Yusuf's son. Hearing this, Yusuf is completely shattered. Mawar mocks him, saying that everyone around him has betrayed him. She claims that she is the only one left who truly belongs to him and offers him a life with her in the house, manipulating him into killing Marissa with his own hands. She lets out an eerie laugh. At that moment, Yusuf remembers his father whispering snake in his ear before dying and notices the snake-shaped bracelet on Mawar's hand. He snatches the dagger and slashes the bracelet. Mawar collapses instantly, screaming in agony, as a fierce fight breaks out between Yusuf and the cult members. As the battle rages on, Mawar begins transforming into an old woman, writhing in pain. Yusuf manages to defeat the cult members and rushes to free Mikhail, waking him up. Just then, Mawar appears again, holding a knife to Marissa's throat. Yusuf begins reciting prayers, weakening Mawar. She pushes Marissa away, and Marissa manages to free her hands, while Mawar covers her ears to block out the prayers. Yusuf continues chanting, driving Mawar into a frenzy. She jumps wildly, tears down curtains, crawls along the walls, and finally crashes to the ground. Growling, she stands up once more and attacks Yusuf, but he pushes her back. At the same time, Marissa cuts the rope of a chandelier. It crashes down onto Mawar, and the candles ignite her body. Mawar screams in flames as Yusuf escapes with Marissa and Mikhail. Yusuf tells Marissa to take Mikhail outside while he goes to rescue Aika. He carries Aika and runs out as supernatural disturbances shake the house. Chanting God's name loudly, Yusuf calms the chaos and manages to escape. He places Aika into the car and drives away with his family. The final shots show the ritual room burning, with Mawar dying in the fire. With that, the film comes to an end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.